CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always here, I'm your host, Calvin Glenn Alexander. And on this episode of the podcast, I am joined in person with Patrick McDermott, of course, and over video, but over the phone, Jake Carlson. Jake, how's it going?
It's going well. Atlanta is getting warmer for those of you that care. But as some know, it's not going to matter in a little bit what the weather feels like, because soon I'll just be saying, oh, it's 75 degrees.
Or 70 and sunny. You know, that's San Diego every day.
Yeah,
So we're happy to have you join the same coast as both of us here in just a couple of months, Jake. But until then, the weather is a little breezy today outside, but otherwise, as picture perfect as it gets in LA. And with all that being said, it's draft week. So
draft week
with the NFL draft coming out, not coming out, but with the NFL draft being on Thursday, we're doing an NFL mock draft 2022. So with the first overall pick, we have Patrick McDermott. Second overall pick, Jake Carlson. Third overall pick, we myself, the CGA Tour, Calvin Glenn Alexander. And then we'll keep going in that same order through the whole first round.
Sounds great.
No trades, and hopefully we're just going to kind of announce it every time formulaically of, all right, with the first overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select, and then
don't give away my pick.
Well, no, I'm not. But
and I think we're obviously all big sports fans, and we get it. The NFL cycle and everything. I don't know about you guys, but even more so than the Super Bowl, I have woke up every morning the last couple days and gone, okay, only 8 days until the draft. Only 7 days until the draft. Like I've thought about it every day. It's just the best. It's like it's Christmas morning when we finally get to the draft. And for those of us who obviously follow football, love football, dream is to be a GM. You want to run your team. And tonight, speaking for myself, I get to be the GM of the Jags, the Jets, the Giants, the Texans. So like it's dream job all in one night. Times like 10.
Not the Rams though.
Not the Rams.
No first round picks. They don't care about the.
If they could give away all their draft picks, they would.
Oh yeah,
which they could. So maybe they'll try to break some kind of record. But yeah, we will not see the Rams tonight. We will not see the Bears tonight. There's some other notable teams we're not going to see. But any other housekeeping before we get to the first pick here?
You know what? I think we'll just kind of housekeep on the fly for the rest of it, as needed. But Patrick, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, so with that being said, the Jacksonville Jaguars have been on the clock since January, really, since week 17. They've had a long time to figure out what they're going to do with this pick. And by all accounts, they don't know yet. Maybe they do, but there are still a lot of reports coming out of the building. That's not what we're doing tonight. We're not predicting what they're going to do. We're saying, what are we going to do? So what I am going to do is with the number one pick, with the first pick in the NFL draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Aiden Hutchinson, edge rusher out of Michigan. He's a can't miss player. He's a big body guy. He's got a ton of quickness, came back for another year of eligibility, and boy, did it pay off. Like not just personally, but he takes Michigan to a fantastic season. And he's very much the heart. He was very much the heart and soul of that team. I love him in Jacksonville. They don't have great guys like they have contracted for a while. So an obvious hole there. Love the Jags taking Hutchinson.
I love how the first overall, like the team with the first overall pick this year is not needs quarterback, right? Like that's how every single year it usually is. Yes. But arguably, Trevor Lawrence
depending
could
on how you
not
feel
be the
about
answer,
Trevor Lawrence, yeah.
But you've got to try to see it through. Urban Meyer thing, gosh, we don't even know anymore. I don't know anymore. I don't know what that was. I don't know why they did that, but
the 30 for 30 eventually will be amazing.
It will be impressive. The Josh Lambo player character actor with the Urban Meyer player character actor who who gets kicked or kicks. Can't
kick
Josh
your
Lambo.
Players, even your kickers.
You can't do it.
Or was he the punter, kicker? I don't remember.
It was something of the team.
Place kicker, I think. Yeah.
With all that being said, Jake, I think we kind of knew. I think we knew.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it was like a foregone conclusion. 800 was going to go number one overall, but Are you ready with number 2?
I am. And, Aiden Hutchinson, he might not be my number 1 pick, but I can see why people would draft him.
He's a safe pick. He's
he's-
you're not going to miss bad on him if you do miss.
Right. I definitely agree with that. And, he's going into a place that doesn't really have expectations, which is always a good for a number 1 pick. So my number 2 pick that I told you guys before was going to maybe surprise you a little bit, is going to be Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame to the Detroit Lions. I'm not taking any of these quarterbacks at number 2. I know our Pro Football Focus thing has them needing a quarterback, a linebacker, and a defensive back. I think there aren't many linebackers that I would take this high, and they're also, I think, again, Kyle Hamilton and Patrick. I know you like Notre Dame, and so I think Kyle Hamilton is probably one of the as well safer picks that he's just going to be a very solid player for a long period of time, especially around a team that needs to get a little bit better everywhere. And I think oftentimes the best way to help out your corners is by giving them a surefire safety.
I like it. And Kyle Hamilton, like, he really does play sideline to sideline on both, like, against both the run and the pass. Yeah. So he's just incredible at finding the ball in the air, and obviously has a little bit of speed concerns after the combine, but I think most guys watch the film and we're like, all right, we're not worried about him. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say, with the Texans, the Pro Football Focus here says needs, and they didn't even put a position. They just go every position, because that's true. The Texans do need help everywhere. I mean, it's not just one spot. So it is a pick of the litter. But with that being said, I'm not taking a quarterback for them. I hope that for Texans fans, I hope that they are thinking the same thing, to not reach and take Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, etc. They have the 3rd overall pick. Let's go ahead and take one of the best guys available here. And with the 3rd overall pick, the Houston Texans select Evan Neal, tackle from Alabama. It's not Pro Football Focus's best tackle in the draft. It's not even their second best tackle in the draft. But the guy's out of Alabama. To me, at least, that is like the surefire tackle in the draft, safe bet. You're with the 3rd overall pick. Let's just go ahead and get a guy who's going to keep your quarterback upright for the next year. See if Davis Mills could do something. And maybe you don't want him to do something either. Maybe you just really are going, hey, the CJ Stroud, Spencer Rattler under a different regime. Caleb Williams, a bunch of other quarterbacks next year. Maybe just go, you know what? Let's get an offensive tackle that'll last us for 10 years, be a solid key piece of our offense of line for the quarterback we draft next year's entire future, and have a year to adjust instead of our rookie quarterback coming in without a good offensive line. That's just what I'm thinking here, because I think it's too early to take a wide receiver. I think there's plenty of wide receivers you can get later on here if you're the Texans, especially in the 2nd round. So I'm going to go and take Evan Neal, tackle out of Alabama.
I love it. I love that pick. And also, and I'm not one to praise the Texans, nor should anyone be, probably
not.
But I want you guys to take a look, if you want to, and I'll just quickly mention it. If this goes as you say, and I think it's a great pick, Evan Neal, number 3. All of a sudden, you have him on one side, and you have Laramie Tunsil on the other side, and then at center you have Justin Britt, who they really like, and they have him for 2-3 more years too. And who was their other draft pick a few years ago, Titus Howard. Like a FCS guy. So, and they like him a lot, and he's performed well. So, like, all of a sudden the Texans may have a decent foundation on that offensive line. They just need guys around it. So
they really, really do. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Well,
so moving on. Moving on to the 4th pick. So we've come around. Now we're at the New York Jets. And so I went back and forth a little bit on this one. Went between offense and defense. I think they could go either way. But with the 4th pick in the NFL draft, the New York Jets select Ike Ekwonu,
Ooh.
offensive tackle from North Carolina State. So it was between him and Thibodeau, Kayvon Thibodeau, whether you go edge rusher or offensive tackle. And what made the decision for me was I was actually just looking at who the Jets have on contract, and I was surprised that two of their three highest paid players are Carl Lawson, who you might expect, but John Franklin Myers also on the other defensive end. And so they recently gave a deal to, I believe, from the Rams. I believe he was on the Rams previously. So they're paying those guys way more than I thought, and it doesn't feel like they would go get Thibodeau after getting them. So I'm taking the best tackle available to pair with Mekhi Becton. George Fant is in the last year of his contract there. And they have not extended him. So you don't really think that he's going to be there long term. They'd love to get another piece. And according to most people, Ekwonu and Neal are very close, as in the top two tackles in the draft. So I just see this as more protection for Zach Wilson. They're trying to make things as easy for him as possible. So I think he's going to work out really well.
I like the pick a lot just because you have the young quarterback, and I think this is something that comes around way too often. But instead of trying to go defense and try to go, let's just build like the best defensive scheme ever, trust in the defensive head coach, right? Trust in Robert Saleh to be the guy to not only get good second and third and fourth and fifth, et cetera, round like value out of the defensive guys because he's that type of head coach, but also go, the one thing I'm not great at is being an offensive coordinator. So why don't I go ahead and help out the offensive line the best I can? And I think that's a great point.
100%. And I would add to, before I move on, that like the Jets have so many picks in this draft, including at number 10. So would not be at all surprised if they take one of those offense, one defense. So this time I chose to take the tackle first. So we'll just see what they do at 10.
All right. Well, Jake, you are up on the clock for the New York Giants.
It is a lovely day when New York teams are trash, isn't it? So the Giants, I am going to go Charles Cross at 5. He is the third tackle taken already, 3 in a row. So I'm going to go Charles Cross just because, I mean, he's arguably the top tackle in the draft. You know, Calvin chose Evan Neal, which basically, like, I don't necessarily think that you can go wrong with any of these 3 tackles. It probably just depends on scheme and fit and all that kind of stuff, which we have a lot of teams to worry about here. So we can't don't have the time to figure all that out. So I'm going to go Charles Cross. For the Giants, I think they need a strong foundation. I don't think Daniel Jones is their quarterback for the future.
Agreed.
But again, I think it goes, I always think back of that Ravens team, for example, that won the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco as their quarterback. Yeah, he won Super Bowl MVP, but he's not the one that took them there. That Ravens defense with a lot of similar guys also took Trent Dilfer to the Super Bowl. So I think if you build that team with solid wide receivers, solid defense, and an offensive line where people can actually move, then you are pushing yourself to be much better. So yeah, I think picking a tackle for the Giants is an easy pick.
I think it's interesting that we just all know how much the tackles can really make a huge difference.
Yeah.
In the NFL. That's I don't want to like go on a whole rant about Dak Prescott having a huge amount of success in week 1 through 10 of his rookie season, basically by being supported by a great offensive line. But I think there is something to that for sure. And Daniel Jones
Zeke
needs
too.
help. And Zeke too. Yeah, you have MVP and Rookie of the Year guys. Same team.
Well,
yeah.
And arguably probably
No.
Yeah, not MVP, but
not
yeah,
MVP,
Rookie of the Year.
Rookie and then like Offensive Player of the Year, I think. Rookie of the Year and Offensive Player of the Year. I think those are the two.
Multiple time rushing leader.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's probably behind one of the best offensive lines ever. right?
In recent memory, yeah, in the last few decades for sure.
So it matters, like Calvin said, basically. It matters.
100%.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, I don't think there's a chance that a lot of these teams are going to draft tackles and not need them. But there's great
Yeah.
depth at tackle too. Not really sure I'm saying anything that's groundbreaking though as well. I mean, just how it is, right? So yeah, we've got 3 tackles going in a row. And then to follow that up here, I'm going to say that the Carolina Panthers, and again, this is not what I think they'll do. I think there's a good chance Carolina Panthers do something dumb because every single chance that Matt Rule can take a dumb quarterback decision, he does it. Now, Sam Darnold, I was fully on board with that decision. I was like, you know what? You buy low, you get in, you see what you got. But granted, you probably run it back and you go, why do we do this?
Well, the problem is also they bought low and are paying that low like $20 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's your problem.
So which is a huge deal. So they bought low as far as the trade capital, kind of getting him, but then they have to pay him, which sucks. So with all that being said, I think the Carolina Panthers could take a Malik Willis here. I do not think that's the move at all. And with this pick, they need quarterback, they need offensive line, but I'll tell you what, there's not great spot, and I don't think that we're going to see it's not really what we think is going to happen, but I wouldn't do it. And at this point, Carolina's got a lot of corners in their draft room, but they could always use, an edge guy. So I'm going to take Kayvon Thibodeau here. I think that's just where he stops falling. As far as a value standpoint, I think that it'd be great for the Carolina Panthers to go get him. With all that being said, they have Sam Darnold on the roster, but they don't have another quarterback on the roster after the end of the season. They have Philip Walker as well, but they're gonna have to do something quarterback next year. I just add on and say there's always quarterbacks available. Like the Steelers got Trubisky this year. There's always somebody who's a backup somewhere who looks good for a couple of games and then they're taken. So the Panthers could just go into next season and go, you know what? Like, we'll take Thibodeau, but we're building, and we know we're building, and we'll find throwing out Sam Darnold until he gets injured kind of again, unfortunately, or maybe he doesn't for another season. Like, let's give him another season, see what he's got, especially if you can get Christian McCaffrey kind of healthy to help out Sam Darnold, then maybe you do have some value there. Never know.
Is this a trade down potential?
I really do think there's a great chance that they actually take Malik Willis here.
Yeah, I don't think they trade down. Because anybody that would be looking to trade up would be trying to trade up in front of them, most likely. So it's either someone trades with the Giants after them to try to get ahead of the Falcons and the Seahawks, because the Falcons and Seahawks arguably need a quarterback as bad as the Panthers do.
Yeah.
Seahawks maybe more. I mean, the Seahawks sure do not want to play Drew Lock, but it looks like they might, if they don't take a quarterback tonight. So, yeah, that would be. I think you're right. I think there's a decent chance the Panthers take a quarterback there, but I agree. I don't think it's the right move. I think that's way too high for any of these guys.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, they should probably just take best available at that point, right?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, in a perfect world, yeah, probably. So, and with that in mind, so now on the clock are the New York Giants again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going back and forth on this one because I'm looking at the Giants secondary, and the problem is they're paying both James Bradbury and Adoree Jackson a lot. They both have 3 years, right around 43 million. So you don't love that you paid Adoree Jackson, but I think Sauce Gardner being there is too good a player to pass up. Gosh, now I kind of want to change my mind. Oh man, the war room is buzzing right now. I think gosh, Tom. I'm going Trayvon Walker with the 6th pick in the draft. The New York
Okay.
Giants take Trayvon Walker.
7th pick.
I'm sorry, 7th pick. I'm taking Trayvon Walker. He's obviously a huge physical freak. I mean, he can do everything. He's so quick. And he's just been catapulting up boards recently. There's even some rumblings that he could get taken at 2 or possibly even 1. I mean, I think that if he falls this far to the Giants, it's tough. I mean, for me, it just kind of came down to the money. Like, I don't think Adoree Jackson is that good, but they've invested so heavily in him, and James Bradbury, like, obviously. But I just don't know. Like, I don't know if you want to throw Sauce Gardner into that mix. You probably have to trade Adoree. I don't know. I just you can't really see that happening easily. So I'm taking the easier way out with Trayvon Walker.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the easy way out, but I think he's an incredible player too. That is a great value though, if you're the Giants.
So I will say, being the resident SEC person, the only problem
Not for long,
that
my friend.
not for long.
2025.
The only problem that I have with Trayvon Walker is he started jumping up draft boards once the combine started, which is, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm fine with that. But I have concerns that we didn't hear his name that often on that Georgia defense that was the best in the country.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean was arguably the most kind of NFL ready looking guy out there.
And Jordan Davis too.
And well, yeah, for sure. Jordan Davis, yeah. Just massive, massive human being.
Yeah. So I
think
he'll be fine.
I don't know if I don't feel great about this one. Now I do think I was in a little bit of a win-win spot, like whether you take Sauce Gardner or you take Trayvon Walker. I think you're getting great value both places. The 3 top tackles are off the board because we got one of them already and the Giants did. So I feel pretty good about it.
And if you have faith in your coaching staff as well, this is a good pick. Which, again, I would assume that the Giants do, considering they hired them. But
yeah,
yeah, I feel like they would have to like this pick.
Yeah, I can't think. I mean, like I said, I think it's a great value there. Great value to get Walker there where it is. So, all right, Jake, what are you up here 8 with the Falcons? Need a quarterback, but they have Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, I'm not drafting a quarterback. I'll say that. So these are my hometown that I don't root for, Atlanta Falcons. This one's a little tough, but I am just going to go with who I think is probably the best player right now, the best player available, and that is Ahmad Sauce Gardner to the Falcons. I mulled between, going to reach on maybe a Lindenbaum or maybe a Jordan Davis and keeping him in Georgia, but I think here getting Sauce Gardner is probably the best pick. I mean, the dude, he's just really freaking good. And what was it like? He didn't allow a touchdown his entire career at Cincinnati. It was some insane,
something crazy like that. Yeah,
there was some insane stat like that, and so I just think, career highlights. Never allowed a touchdown. He allowed 14 yards on 4 targets against Alabama in the college football semifinal. So, against some of the best receivers, against one of the best teams, he did what he was supposed to do. And I think with the Falcons, you might be throwing him into the fire a little bit, but I also think this team is going to be extremely bad. I could see this team easily having the first pick next year. So,
with no quarterback, or a Mariota quarterback, you can't love their chances.
No, but I think Mariota is the perfect guy to have in that locker room, that type of quarterback. He's a really good locker room guy. He's a really good leader. So if the Falcons do choose to draft a quarterback with this pick, it wouldn't surprise me. I personally would not. I would probably wait, or maybe trade up into a later first round pick, kind of feel out who's getting drafted. But if I were the Falcons here, I would just take best available who you think is going to be a surefire thing, opposed to reaching on a potential quarterback when, if you're anticipating being bad next year and you could get a Stroud, or you could get one of those kinds of guys. Bryce Young, I would rather bet on that than, no offense to Malik Willis, but then reach on a Malik Willis or have a Kenny Pickett who, I'm sorry, but like a Kenny Pickett isn't probably going to be better for your team than Marcus Mariota this year.
Agreed. Yeah.
So that's why I think the Falcons probably just go with that.
I think I'm naming this podcast the "We're Not Reaching for Quarterbacks," because that's what all three of us have been saying repeatedly. I'm curious when one of us will take a quarterback here. But with all that being said, we're 26 minutes in and we're still not taking a quarterback. So with the 9th overall pick, the Seattle Seahawks are taking Pro Football Focus's second overall ranked player. Not my second overall ranked player at all, but a corner out of LSU, Derek Stingley Jr. Saying that right?
Yep.
I think he goes here. I don't think he lasts till the Jets. If you're the Seahawks, like you're taking this guy. You see that Sauce Gardner just got taken. You wonder if there's going to be a move on corners. There's a lot of great wide receivers on the board here. Jameson Williams, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, etc. And as much as I would go, oh, maybe Trent McDuffie is the other corner to take here, or an edge, because they do need an edge guy. I'm not super high on the Big Ten or the Pac-12 for producing, like, I don't know. It'd make me eat my words. I'm not super high on just a guy out of Purdue. I'm not super high on George Karlaftis. Thank you.
Karlaftis.
And so, or a Pac-12 like corner. And I'd much rather take an LSU corner who has much to be desired from recent game tape, but he's still a really quality good player and is a top 10 player in my eyes.
Love it. And I'm upset with that because so the Jets are now on the clock, and that I had Derek Stingley in the chamber ready to go for the Jets. That was going to be my perfect 1-2 punch with offensive tackle, and then you take defense. But that's the draft, man. You've put me in an interesting spot. Man, these New York teams, they are
trash.
They're making me sweat over here. So the good news is, like, I mean, the top 9 guys are off the board. I'm gonna do the opposite, I think, of what I said I was gonna do, and that's because during your Seahawks pick, I was over here just looking at the Jets depth chart and their salary cap and everything. Corey Davis, you kind of like, Corey Davis, you're happy he's there. Your other two options are Elijah Moore, who's young, and Braxton Berrios, who is largely a non-factor. So I'm going to get Zach Wilson, the best wide receiver in this class. So with the 10th pick in the draft, the New York Jets select Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. With the first wide receiver off the board, we go double offense.
I got to give you some applause for that one. Not only because I think he's a good pick, but because James Williams coming off ACL surgery, like, not great. Just not great.
Too risky for me.
And too risky to do top 10. Just too risky to do, honestly, top 20 when you have a guy who's, when you have Garrett Wilson. Like, Garrett Wilson's sitting there. It's just crazy.
He's fast. He's not super sized, but he does everything well. And Elijah Moore, they drafted Elijah Moore. I don't remember off the top of my head, it was either late first round or early second round. I think it was early second round. But he was probably never going to be their number one guy. Garrett Wilson, I think, can come in and just be that primary target right away. So I think it really sets them up well. Plus, they also have CJ Uzomah coming in from Cincinnati. So So the goal is to get Zach Wilson some weapons, and adding the offensive tackle as well. Ekwonu, try to protect him a little better. They just need some offensive production.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Jake?
I definitely agree with that. I also think he is the best receiver in the draft. So I'm right there with you. I have my kind of favorite team. I don't know what TBD right now.
Jury's out still.
Jury's out still. They need a lot except like defensive line. I mean, there's no owners in this draft, so that's kind of unfortunate. Can't draft any of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah,
but I
you
think
would replace Dan Snyder tomorrow if you could.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that would probably be the best possible pick. But I am going to take, with the number 11 pick, I am going to take Tyler Lindenbaum out of Iowa. If Washington is preparing to draft a quarterback, like we all assume that they are down the road, having probably one of the best centers we've seen in a very long time is going to be very vital for that. So it's not flashy, but and by the way, Washington is definitely not going to do this. They will draft a quarterback. I promise they will draft a quarterback.
What about Carson Wentz?
No, they're not drafting a quarterback.
They're not drafting a quarterback because they're paying Carson Wentz
that's true. He's
an incredible amount of money for being terrible, for just being terrible.
But you're overestimating the intelligence of Washington.
I see.
Yeah.
I don't think I am, just for one simple reason. Ron Rivera. That's but that I think is the clearest minded head in the room about, okay, if we're gonna do it, why? Like why do we do it? It just would suck,
But this is that pick that Calvin and I talked about earlier, where you've heard people say, "Oh, he's going to be in the league for 10 years," and it's like, then why is he at 30s? Why is he getting drafted in the 30s if he's going to be one of the best centers? So I think it's probably at this rate one of the safer picks for them.
Yeah, I mean he's the best interior lineman in the draft for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, Patrick.
All right, I am back on the clock now with. No, it's you, dude.
Yeah, it's you, Calvin.
No, almost skipped the
me.
Vikings.
Oh my gosh, I forget I'm after Jake. Well, I'm just gonna cut to it. The Vikings, they have wide receivers. They don't need a wide receiver, so I'm gonna take George Karlaftis here, edge, ranked 10th overall by Pro Football Focus. I like a lot of Pro Football Focus's analysis. I don't love all of their podcasters, just to be most honest person in the entire world, but that's me as a fellow podcaster. And maybe they'll never appear on the CJ tour, but you know what? Our eyes are set on ESPN or Ryan Russillo coming on the podcast anyway, so that's what it is. George Karlaftis here, as much as I talked crap about him with the 10th pick, but with the 10th pick to the that went to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
I do like George Karlaftis here going to the Vikings. I think he's a good edge guy. They need a good edge guy, and they would take Aiden Hutchinson if he was there, but clearly he's not going to be there at 12. So George Karlaftis, and kind of moving on to the next one. The other option would have been Trent McDuffie, but again, not too high on corners out of the Pac-12. Drake London, I like wide receiver out of the Pac-12. I think wide receivers and skill position guys of the Pac-12 generally are really good, but who's the best corner in the NFL or best defensive guy in the NFL out of a Pac-12 school today? And it just
that's an interesting question.
I mean that's one of the things pedigree and conferences. Jake and I talked a lot about that on the March Madness preview that we did on pedigree out of conferences, and it was who's the best out of the other conferences? And we were like, well, we know the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball, and so that's what we took, and it ended up being right with Kansas winning it all. Now, did not see Carolina going that far and getting all the way there, but we didn't talk crap on Carolina. We talked crap on the Pac-12 and UCLA and USC and I think there's one more team that made it. But anyways, I'm getting beside myself here. Taking George Karlaftis and not looking back. I think he's another great guy. You're not going to be mad about that pick.
Love it. Love it. So now I am back on the clock with the Houston Texans. So earlier in the draft, they took Evan Neal, the offensive tackle at number 3. So once again, I mean, they're in a pretty good spot. Like they have so many holes that like they really can't they can't make a terrible pick, or it would be hard for them to do so. So in kind of looking at just how everything rolls out and who's still on the board, and the fact that the Texans have multiple picks to kind of play with, I'm going to use this pick. So the 13th overall pick, the Houston Texans select Jameson Williams, wide receiver out of Alabama, formerly Ohio State. But Jameson Williams, yeah, obviously he's still recovering from the ACL, but I feel like the Texans are in a place where they could roll the dice on somebody in this spot. The best wide receiver in their roster right now is Brandon Cooks, and they're paying him like he's Christian Kirk, who the Cardinal or who paid the Jaguars. Thank you. The Jaguars are paying Christian Kirk like he's, DeAndre Hopkins. So long story short, he's gonna contribute. Davis Mills needs targets, and we talked a little bit about it earlier, but I mean, to my view, that the Texans are 100% in on Davis Mills for this season. They like what they saw from him last year, and frankly, it looked pretty good. Like there's a lot to be desired, obviously, and they didn't want him to do too much, but I think Jameson Williams is the kind of guy that's going to help him do more, and just give him a little more flexibility with his targets and everything. So, and obviously you love the speed, and you got to think he'll be able to recover well. And if he doesn't, you still have a lot of capital, and you can fix those other needs elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
I am going to keep this next pick very simple. The Baltimore Ravens will get Trent McDuffie from Washington. The reason being is because he is going to the Baltimore Ravens.
He is. Okay.
They do not miss on many defensive picks. They are very selective when it comes to their defensive picks, and they usually help their guys get right. So, amongst all the Pac-12 stuff that Calvin was talking about earlier, I think the Ravens would be a very good team for him, just because, I mean, we trust the Ravens on the defensive side of the ball. So,
yeah, I mean, the only issue with that for me, Jake, is they have Marlon Humphrey and they have Marcus Peters. So I don't know, I don't know if you take McDuffie so that he can be a third option, that's the only hesitation there. But I mean, I think it could work, it's not like those other two guys are ever coming off the field, but
right.
I'm all for best player available. And I mean, Marcus Peters, he's also a free agent after this year. So who knows, who knows how that's going to shake out. But, if they wanted to, if they don't think they're going to be able to pay Marcus Peters long term, which I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know if they're in a position to do that. But yeah, I think Trent McDuffie is definitely the best secondary left on the board.
Yeah, I don't think it's too complex here. Like the pick, Jake. And I'm just gonna go ahead and move on here. So there's just not much else I have to say, honestly, besides that.
Great.
I'm running to the podium with this pick. I do think that linebacker, I've said it, it's been bad. I don't love taking defensive guys out of the Pac-12, so I'm going to run to the podium here and take Nakobe Dean, Georgia linebacker, and just say, you know what, Devin Lloyd can just go ahead and just sit his butt tight there for a minute until, I don't know, maybe later on the Eagles take him again. I'm just kidding. They clearly wouldn't. But, yeah, Nakobe Dean here. This is the part in the draft where
N'Kobe Dean gets picked, and then you hear them play the stupid little music, and then you hear Mel Kiper go, "Now this is a guy that probably should have been drafted in the top 5, but he wasn't drafted in the top 5."
Right.
I don't. Is he?
I mean, he could. I
The
don't.
only
He could slip
reason,
out of the first. Honestly, like I
which
feel
is,
like
they say it's because he's short, but I'm like, did you watch the games? Did you watch it? Like that? That's all. Like
I love the
personally,
pick. I love the pick because the Eagles, they need him. Like
yeah.
they really need him. And I think you could go Devin Lloyd or N'Kobe Dean. I don't. But it's just whoever you like, and I
Mhm.
think N'Kobe Dean is outstanding.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else on that one?
Not necessarily. I don't think there's too much to discuss here with it, except for the fact that I was looking through Mel Kiper's like mock draft here, and kind of Mel Kiper / Todd McShay / whoever else at ESPN's got it, and they don't have N'Kobe Dean going that much later. They have him going 21 overall to the Patriots when he's still left on the board, and they have the Eagles at pick 15 taking James Williams. So, which is not a position that I think that they just absolutely need. I do not think that the Eagles just desperately need a wide receiver. So anyways, that's kind of it. All right.
Great. Okay, so I'm back on the clock with the New Orleans
Saints.
Saints. Yeah, and there is a player, and I won't tip picks here, but there's a player that I really want to take here, who I think is the best player overall left on the board. But I'm sitting here just looking at their depth chart, looking at the contracts of the guys that they still have, and I just don't know if they can take this guy. So I'm gonna go in a different direction. I am looking. Bear with me here. Sorry. I don't want to become predictable, but I'm gonna take my third wide receiver in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So with the 16th pick in the draft, the New Orleans Saints select Drake London, wide receiver from USC. The Saints need help bad at wide receiver, and it doesn't matter who their quarterback is. They need help at wide receiver. Right now, they have Michael Thomas, who hasn't played in a very long time, and they have Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith. And then their fourth option, just in the way of shout outs, is Lil Jordan Humphrey, University of Texas. How we doing, LJ? So that is not a great wide receiver room, especially with Michael Thomas not really giving any production whatsoever. So they're going to take Drake London. He's a big body guy. I didn't know until today. He's 6'4". Love that. Former basketball player. So he was a two-sport athlete. He played on the USC basketball team his freshman year. Might have been his first 2 years, but just an absolute dog. I mean, he gets up and gets balls. Like that's just the way it is. I mean, he has an incredible vertical, like hands are great. He's kind of that big body wide receiver who is going to just overwhelm a lot of the corners in the league. So feel great about this one.
I think it's a great pick and a great fit for a team that just, like you said, really, really could use a lot of help on the wide receiver spot in the game. I mean, who really who's James Winston throwing to? And to have a 6'4" guy being able to go jump up and grab it. Well, with James Winston squinting as he throws a 60-yard pass down the field, I think he'll feel a lot better squinting to a 6'4" guy versus squinting to
Not anymore, man.
random
LASIK
dude who's
surgery.
6 foot. Well, I mean, I'm just, but
Yeah.
it didn't. If he stays fully healthy, which you're right. Anyways, with that being said, Jake, you are on the clock here with the Los Angeles Chargers.
The Los Angeles Chargers. So I am picking the guy who I wanted all along, who I've said all along that I think the Chargers should draft. And that is going to be Jordan Davis. out of the University of Georgia. If I'm reading this correctly, the Chargers allowed the third most rushing yards in the NFL last year.
I'm surprised it wasn't the most. I'm surprised we were third.
They were behind the Texans and the Steelers. So anytime you're behind
The Texans.
In anything. So third worst rush defense. I mean, Jordan Davis is a physical freak. I looked on Pro Football Focus and they have Devontae Wyatt rated ahead of him. I watched a lot of Georgia football this year, obviously. I have no idea who that is. And again, this goes back to the combine stuff. I don't discredit it, but he is going to be a tall, like Warren Sapp type deal. He is going to plug holes. And if anybody in this podcast watched the Chargers play the Raiders in the last game of the season, they could have used him last year.
You don't say. You don't say, as someone who was at the game.
Oh, you were at the game, really? Anyways, so, I think this is an easy pick for the Chargers. Pro Football Focus has them needing a wide receiver, tackle, and corner. I personally just don't agree with that, considering how not great their rush defense was, and I don't need to keep harping on that. But let's just say I don't think Jordan Davis is like just putting a Band-Aid over something. I think he is a fix.
Yeah, Pro Football Focus goes into why they have Devontae Wyatt higher rated, and it's because of his athleticism. And I got to say, you know what? I know Jordan Davis's name. I do not know Devontae Wyatt from the two Georgia defensive linemen. I'd rather have Jordan Davis. I'd rather have the household type of guy who, great, like they both played defense. They both played on a, national championship winning team. I'd just rather have Jordan Davis in the day and just move on. I don't think it's necessarily a huge difference between both the guys as far as like what you're going to get over 10 years. But the Chargers need a run stopper, and I think Jordan Davis is a great pick.
And even at least just a run deterrent.
Something to clog that spot,
Like, and so Patrick, I was alluding to earlier, I had my two picks for the Chargers. One was Jordan Davis, and the other one was Nakobe Dean. Because I think they need help at both of those spots, and they both could help very much in the run game. So,
all right. Well, with the 18th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles, I wouldn't say sprint to the podium necessarily. That's what I've said before, but they're taking Daxton Hill, corner out of Michigan.
oh.
I know that there's probably some type of discussion here of do they or do they not? What's the deal? Aren't there other corners that are a little higher, like Kaiir Elam?
Elam, yeah.
Yeah, not Elam. And
Now
there's a couple other
have-
guys here that are higher up. Andrew Booth Jr. As well. Dax Hill, as Jake knows, is a guy that we both have followed since he was initially tried to be recruited by Oklahoma State. Former 5-star overall guy. Also could work as a kick returner, even though that he's never going to do that because they have Devontae Smith Jr. But I think Dax Hill is too good of a guy here to pass up. For the Eagles, I don't think they necessarily like truly need him, but I think he's a great value who, by the time the Eagles come back around, could really miss him. I mean, former 5-star, I'm going a lot off of that, to be honest with this, and the fact that I think he could have been utilized way better at Michigan than he was, and that gets to a lot of the issue with him overall here too. So Dax Hill. And then the next pickup here is the New Orleans Saints. But Jake, what do you think about Dax Hill?
I'm surprised that you took him where you did, but I've also seen a lot of people like just talking about how good he is. Um, Again, I mean, he was a 5-star prospect. He's from Tulsa. Brother played at OSU, but I mean, he was really good at Michigan, and that defense was really, really good. So I think it's pretty. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a reach for the Eagles, but the Eagles definitely need one of these kinds of guys that can play really physically, is really fast, and can kind of play in that linebacker, safety, defensive back type of like almost like a nickel hybrid position. So that is kind of what I would imagine he will be doing if he were to go to Philly, and probably just in the NFL in general.
Yeah, kind of that slot corner guy, right?
Yeah.
So fits into DB, but could play that hybrid safety role as needed as well too. Pro Football Focus says that they need a defensive back. I do agree. I think they definitely could use a defensive back. Now, as a previous Dallas Cowboys fan, I would not want them to take a position that they need. I'd rather them just go ahead and say, screw it, let's take another wide receiver. Just why not? But that's what Patrick had him doing earlier. Or excuse me, none of us had him that doing earlier. But I was thinking about it at least when they took, I took Nakobe Dean for him, and I'm still thinking, you know what, the Eagles' best shot at like going far here is just picking another defensive guy, keeping the buck moving, and not worrying about it too much here with Dax Hill.
Fair enough, I think.
And I mean, you guys can tell here clearly, I'm just not a huge Devin Lloyd fan. Just clearly, not a deal. Not a conversation.
Yeah, I've been trying to take him, to be honest, and I just haven't really had a good spot to do it. Thought about it here too. So sorry, I'm back. So now on the with the 19th pick in the draft is the New Orleans Saints. This is another one. So like I said, I really wanted to take Devin Lloyd. I really wanted to take another defensive guy, which we have not seen come off the board yet. But since we've talked about Devin Lloyd, I'm fine bringing him up. I am going with let's see. Where's he at? Okay, here we go. So with the 19th pick in the NFL draft, the New Orleans Saints select Trevor Penning, offensive lineman from the University of Northern Iowa. So this is the Saints. The Saints are the next great offensive line in the NFL if they're not there already. Ryan Ramczyk is a spectacular tackle, obviously. Andrus Peat at guard, great. They drafted Cesar Ruiz a couple years ago, so he's the he will either take over at center or stay at guard. Penning can either take guard or, I believe, I was just trying to look this up. Yeah, their other tackle is James Hurst, who they do have for another 2 years. But he's also, he'll been in the year over a decade by that point. Like they're ready for more help. And this is a guy. He's from obviously not a Division I school, but really high on a lot of people's boards. Just pure kind of raw, intense offensive line. Sort of like he's nowhere near this good, but sort of the energy that Quentin Nelson had coming out of the draft, where he's ready to run block. He's ready to protect also. And I think he can play anywhere along the line if he needs to.
I think it's a great pick just because you give Jameis Winston no excuses. He has to stay healthy now. There's no way that he really is could be the guy for you going forward if he's not able to stand behind this offensive line and win games. He is your insurance factor for that. And also he's the guy where you go, we pick him, then we take our quarterback next year. We go ahead and we just go, you know what? We're taking our quarterback next year. And I think there's several teams to be in the same spot. So it's not necessarily a spot the Saints want to be in, but that's what happens when you have a really bad quarterback draft, is that everyone just has to hit pause for a year on the quarterbacks they need. and then go ahead and go, okay, next year we're going to have to take a quarterback. Like the Saints, I mean, the Steelers have the next pick here. The Eagles, who knows what they're going to do quarterback wise as well. I mean, are they completely sold on having Jalen Hurts? Probably not from everything we've seen. And then Jake was alluding to it earlier with his Washington team or his maybe former fandom of Washington. And then we talked about the Panthers earlier as well, too. So there's a lot of teams needing a quarterback. I mean, Seattle's up there as well. Atlanta's up there as well, too. And they're just kind of bridging it for this year. We haven't taken a quarterback yet, so I'll be curious what you do here, Jake. But yeah, it's
Well,
I think
Calvin,
it's a
it's
good
funny.
pick. I think it's a
It's
good
funny
pick.
you say that. I'm gonna rip Band-Aid and draft Malik Willis. I don't think Pittsburgh is in the same, and this is hilarious. Pittsburgh is a far better team than Atlanta, but in the quarterback room, they are not. I mean, look, Mason Rudolph, sorry. Mitch Trubisky, sorry. Both of them, neither of them are as good as Marcus Mariota, just in general. So
Neither of
I
them
think
have won
think
a Heisman
Trubisky-
Trophy before.
You don't think Trubisky is as good as Marcus Mariota today?
I saw that dude have one. I saw him play one good year of football. I have seen Marcus Mariota be a average quarterback for the last however long he's been in the NFL.
If I don't know, I feel like he was below average, and we've seen like 2 good games from Marcus Mariota in the last like 4 years.
I mean,
So
I'm not looking for good.
I realize, no, I know this isn't even the pick, so it doesn't
Right.
matter. Yeah, but no, sorry. Go ahead though. I think I cut you off. So the Steelers with
No.
Malik Willis or
Steelers with
Willis.
Malik Willis. I think if you're Pittsburgh, that division is so up in the air, and I think you can kind of, and by up in the air, I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen in that division next year. And so I think if Malik Willis does turn out to be your next guy, then you're in good hands if you're Pittsburgh. And I guess if you were Pittsburgh, if someone said, hey, would you rather have Marcus Mariota or Mitchell Trubisky, they choose Mitchell Trubisky in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, I would personally, but I also think Mitch Trubisky is pretty okay. Like I think he kind of got a bad rap with the Bears, even though he was admittedly nowhere close to a number 2 pick in a draft.
That's true.
But I think he's a serviceable quarterback. I do, and I'm just not sure Marcus Mariota was ever really kind of acceptable as a franchise guy. So yeah, they're both bridge guys, unless one of them comes out and has a spectacular year. And if it's Mariota, they probably still won't keep him. But
And
I do like this pick. It's a good. He doesn't have to play right away,
No.
and they
I don't
can ease
think
him
he
in
needs
year
to.
2.
He has a good running back, and I think that helps a lot. But they need a little help on the wide receiver side. So I don't know. I could just see Pittsburgh doing it with. They don't draft quarterbacks very often, and so when they do, they haven't had to. And so when they do, you tend to trust them. And I don't think Malik Willis will be available here on Thursday, but today he is, and I think Pittsburgh would probably draft him if he were.
I agree there for sure. I think that Trubisky is a good enough bridge quarterback for Malik Willis to come in, be a great guy, be a great backup. And in all comparison's sake, I think Trubisky gets a horrible rap because it was the Bears drafted him at 2 when they could have drafted Mahomes, Watson, whoever else who went later on in that same draft. And they traded up for the second overall pick for Trubisky, who was the consensus, like the guy. But clearly hasn't played out that way. So maybe Pittsburgh can just get something going. I mean, they need some wide receivers. I could see them taking a wide receiver here if Willis is gone, but maybe he's not. and I think it's a good pick. Now, I think it's me here with the number 20, the 21st overall pick with the
Can
New England
confirm. Yep.
Patriots. I will say, Patrick was talking about this earlier today about looking through the secondary for the Patriots and just seeing how many guys they are paying on the defensive side there. And this is why I'm going to go ahead and just say, you know what, the Patriots could really use is a guy to help out Mac Jones in the passing game. Just another a weapon. I mean, we're talking like N'Keal Harry's one of the guys for the Patriots, and he hasn't done much. I think they take the surefire wide receiver left to go in the first round, and it's a guy that I like a lot. I don't like him comparatively, of course, to his teammate, but I think he doesn't fall anymore after this. And I go and take Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State, for the New England Patriots 21st overall pick.
Joining his teammate in the AFC East.
Yeah, no
Interesting.
kidding. So,
little wrinkle.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson, excuse me, is gonna go ahead and see his buddy twice a year. But on the opposite side of the I guess for the sidelines or whatever, not on the opposite side of the ball, granted plays the same position. But anyways, I think that's what the Patriots go ahead and do, and they don't let him fall to the Packers. They go ahead and grab great value with Chris Olave there at the 21st pick.
Nice. And as you say, as you kind of led into, if I was the Packers, which I am, I would easily have taken Chris Olave probably if he was there. He is not, but that's the draft. That's the draft. And does Rodgers desperately needed somebody like an Olave. But the next guy down the board for me at wide receiver is probably Treylon Burks out of Arkansas, who I like. But I don't love taking him here. I think it's a little early. I think Olave, London, Jameson Williams, and Garrett Wilson are the clear kind of top four. I think most people would probably agree with that. So I'm going to pass on a wide receiver here and take a guy that I've alluded to a couple of times that keeps dropping down the board. Incredible value for them here at 22. So with the 22nd pick, the Green Bay Packers select Jermaine Johnson II, edge rusher out of Florida State. This is a guy that it's actually kind of it's very different that he's sliding here because in most kind of mock drafts recently, it seems like he's been really skyrocketing up. So this is a guy who can really do it all. Like, he's got great size. Florida State has been pumping out these edge rushers. Brian Burns a few years ago has been super productive for the Panthers. There's one more really notable guy that I'm forgetting. But I love this pick here. This is a best player available pick. The position of need is clearly wide receiver in a big way. But there's just not a guy there that I love at 22. So we're going best player available, and it's Jermaine Johnson.
I mean, he'll have fun being in the cold.
He'll get used to it.
So with the 23rd pick, not going to waste too much time on this. I'm going to go Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson to the Arizona Cardinals at 23. He joins a long list of Clemson corners that have recently started to get drafted. AJ Terrell, wasn't he all pro this year?
For the Falcons?
Yeah.
I don't know about all pro, but I think he had a good year, yeah.
Yeah. So AJ Terrell, there's a couple other Clemson guys. So yeah, I'm going to keep that. He was second team all pro this year. Wow. There you go. So I'm going to keep that Clemson corner going, and I'm going to take Andrew Booth.
Love that. Yeah, he's another guy that has been gaining a lot of steam in the last few weeks. Yeah, and I think Cardinals could use him. I think all of this talk, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this because it's not necessarily draft related, although it could be. Like, all this talk about Kyler Murray being upset about, the team not caring about him or what he wants the direction to be. I feel like the Cardinals have done nothing since he got there, but try to surround him with as many great players as possible. And I think they've done that super successfully. So I don't necessarily think I don't think the Cardinals owe Kyler Murray anything. And I think getting stuff on the defensive side of the ball is great. And if he doesn't like that, he can deal with it.
Well, one thing about Kyler Murray that I was looking for is Mike Tannenbaum's like quarterback rankings from ESPN, and really just kind of going through like the QBR rankings overall. And Kyler Murray last year, you guys want to take a guess where he finished in QBR rankings at the end of the season?
Regular season?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they'll just say the whole season because I'm not sure how this is measured necessarily. But yeah, where his final rank was after the
I'm
end
gonna
of the
go
season.
19.
Oh, I'll go 9.
So you hit the nail on the head.
Did I?
He's 9th overall. Before the last game of his season, he was 8th. But here's the guys who he's behind. Of course, Matt Stafford, Prescott, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Brady, Mahomes, Rodgers. Now, the guys who
Eight guys he's worse than.
Right. Well, yeah. But that's factual. Like, I don't have him better than any of those guys. I have him where he could be better than Prescott week to week, but not necessarily dependably. I have him where he could be better than Stafford week to week, but not dependably. And the rest of the guys, I think he's just not better than any of those guys overall. But also, he's in like this tier with, all right, so Stafford's one ahead of him. Then he's at 9. Then Tannehill's behind him at 10. Russell Wilson's at 11. And Derek Carr's at 12. And then Kirk Cousins at 13. And then we get to Mac Jones, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. So also, he's in between Stafford and Tannehill. And for him to be going, hey, you know what? Like, I need more because I'm doing, I need more. I want to be paid because I'm doing so well or whatever. You know who's not saying that? And it's because he's getting paid, of course, but it's Tannehill. Tannehill's one spot below him. And I feel like the Titans could draft a quarterback in like 2 years and be, or when Tannehill's contract expires and everyone would go, yep, sounds about right. Yeah, it wouldn't shock anyone. Whereas if the same thing happened timeline-wise with Murray, it'd shock everyone in 2 years is they drafted a replacement for him. And just kind of name recognition there. Like, I mean, if Kyler Murray tomorrow was traded for Russell Wilson, just straight up, or he had been traded for straight up for Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, would all of us be going, what the hell? I mean, we would, right? Like, that'd be just a weird pick and a weird move. But when you go if it's a 1-year bottle, it's not that bad. And I think they're comparable. So Kyler Murray, just chill out a little bit, got for high horse. I think you're comparable to the Ryan Tannehill, Matt Stafford, Russell Wilsons of the world, but you're definitely not comparable to the Mahomes or the Burrow or Herbert, Allen guys.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving out Rodgers and Brady because more of that is just like, oh my God, you say their names and you just think not 1 year, where that's why I'm going, Mahomes, I shouldn't even throw in there, but you're not up there in the top 5 to 6. You're in like the 9 through 12 range of quarterbacks in the league. So let's just pump the brakes there. That's all I'm saying. All right. So I'm up here with the 24th overall pick for the Dallas Cowboys. Devin Lloyd's still on the board. Devontae Wyatt's still on the board. But I'm not going with what I think the team will do. I think there's a great chance, with that being said, that the team will take another Penn State guy with the first round pick and go, you know what? We like Micah Parsons. We're going to take Arnold Ebiketie. Right? But that's not what I would do, just because you still have Devontae Wyatt on the board here. So I think the Cowboys go ahead and take Devontae Wyatt.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying is with the 24th overall pick that the Dallas Cowboys select Devontae Wyatt, defensive lineman out of Georgia. And I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's
we're
tough
getting
to
to
miss on
later
any of
picks
these
here.
Georgia guys. Yeah. I mean, and the Cowboys, like they could definitely use some shoring up there, on the D line. That's always going to be good. So I mean, so as two Cowboys fans here, I mean, would you be excited about this pick, like a D tackle?
Yes and no. I always want my team to draft like a flashy guy with the first, with the round 1 pick, just because it's more of the cooler thing to do. But in the back end of it, I'm so glad like Dallas didn't take Johnny Manziel whenever they were rumored to. I'm so glad they didn't take whoever, just all these guys. And I'm kind of mad that they did take Zeke, 4th overall. And I'm kind of mad that they did take who's the corner that we took who just flopped like 4 or 6 years ago, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Give me a second.
Clearly like Byron Jones was a
The
great
guy
pick.
from
Micah
Colorado?
Parsons, great pick.
You talking about the kid from Colorado?
Is that the corner? Yeah. The
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys took like a corner like a certain amount of years ago where I was like, oh, okay, all right. Like, ESPN sold me on him.
He
And
was the guy.
he was okay.
He was the guy we played in the bowl game and James cooked him.
Yeah,
That's
Byron,
right.
Was it? Wait, no, it wasn't Byron Jones. Was
No.
it?
No.
It was. Hold on.
It was the 2017 draft.
Well, that was the taco. Or are you talking about Awuzie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is.
So Awuzie was in the 2nd round, and he's been better the last couple of years. Now he's on the Bengals, but
yeah, I'm gonna have to go back here and look at it a little bit longer. But it's just
I like
it's
the
not
player. I
Awuzie.
like the pick though.
But I
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Bottom line.
So anyways.
Fantastic. Okay, so now on the clock are the Buffalo Bills, who are in a pretty good spot. They're one of these teams where they don't have a ton of holes. So I'm looking in a few different directions here. I think they could go offense or defense. I think so. So in looking at my board right now, Devin Lloyd is falling really far. We're at pick 25. I think most people had him in the 10 to 15 range, just 10 to 15 player on the board. But that being said, now that the Bills, they have they went and got Von Miller, so that outside linebacker role is filled, and Devin Lloyd kind of more plays inside anyway, but they really like Tremaine Edmonds where they usually play there. So I am gonna go ahead and stick to what I've been doing, and that is just drafting the hell out of wide receivers. So I'm going to continue doing that. So with the 25th pick in the NFL draft, the Buffalo Bills select Treylon Burks from Arkansas. Kind of thought Jerry Jones was going to snap him up. The little Arkansas connection there, loves wide receivers, but I'm so glad that Jerry Jones, aka Calvin Alexander, recognized that there are other needs greater than wide receiver. So that being said, I think the Bills get a great guy here. I mean, he will truly the run after the cat, like the breaking tackles. Treylon Burks, he's on another level. He absolutely destroyed Texas this year, of course. So that was too bad. But I like the player. Again, the Bills, there's not a ton of places for them to improve. But you do like. I mean, they now have Jamison Crowder as their 3rd option, I believe. So, you don't love that, and you think Burks would probably be an upgrade over Crowder, at least in my opinion. So I think there's a lot they can do with him.
And I just want to go back and say I actually forgot that it was the Dallas Cowboys' 2012 draft where they took Morris Claiborne. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, for the 6th overall pick. That's what I was talking about there. Whenever it's you take a guy who's not a super flashy dude, but you trade like not a super flashy offensive skill guy, basically. Somebody who I just can see immediate impact on the field, and he doesn't turn out to be a Micah Parsons, basically his first year in the NFL. And then, of course, Morris Claiborne plays in his time playing with the Dallas Cowboys. He played in 47 out of 80 games. So that's what's getting at. This is the Claiborne thing earlier. And but Patrick, I think that's a great pick. I think that not only could Josh Allen just use another wide receiver, why not? But all of a sudden you have Stephon Diggs on one side and you have Treylon Burks on the other side. Don't necessarily have to rely on Cole Beasley a lot to get you that like other yardage.
Plus Gabriel Davis also, coming off of a breakout, playoff performance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot to like about the Bills, and I think they'll be fine with this pick.
Oh yeah.
I was going to draft Treylon Burks with this pick. So Patrick, I'll have words for you whenever I see you next.
Choose, yeah. Choose however you like.
Who's James Davis that commented? I'm just curious.
What's
Oh,
up, James?
James, thanks so much for the comment here.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
What's James got to say?
he commented, "Man, whoever gets George Pickens there getting a steal, watch his film. I see why some people think he's a top 3 receiver in this draft."
There we go.
James, while I do agree with you, the only problem with George Pickens is he never played because he was always hurt. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think he's really, really freaking good, but the sample size is so small because he was hurt so often throughout his tenure at Georgia. Ironically, it says that the Titans here need a wide receiver. I will not be drafting George Pickens. It was going to be Treylon Burks because I think he could fill a lot of those same receiver needs for the Titans as they could for the Bills, even though they play completely different styles of football. But if the Titans don't see a receiver that they see on the board that they like, I'm going to go with the safe pick and draft the guard out of Boston College, Zion Johnson.
Great pick.
It's the safest pick on the board. Again, if you're building up that foundation for post Derrick Henry, don't know how much longer he can do what he's doing. Post Ryan Tannehill, like Calvin said, they will probably be drafting a quarterback here in the next couple of years. A guard is a good place to start, especially with the value you can get it at 26. If you don't want to reach on some of the wide receivers, like maybe a Pickens or the kid from Penn State, Jahan Dotson, maybe one of those if you didn't want to reach. Sky Moore, no offense. I don't know who you are. You're significantly better than football at me, but just not. I don't think a speed threat type deal is necessarily what the Titans need. I think what the Titans need is a kind of guy, a receiver that can bail you out of third and long situations with as much as they run the ball, which Burks would be good for that, but I think just drafting a guard here without him on the board is the safer pick.
There you go.
Totally agree. And Jake, how you said that Patrick stole your pick with Treylon Burks, you definitely stole my pick that I've been researching on Zion Johnson, reading up all his stats, information, looking for when Mile Kiper and Tom McShay do their picks together. The exact same thing happened where the Titans and Kiper took Zion Johnson, and then McShay has words for him in the ESPN article. Johnson would have been a great pick for Tampa Bay, but Mel Kiper stole him. Jake, you stole him as well. So when I'm going through here and...
Can I recant then? I don't want to be on the same page as Mel Kiper.
No. It's locked in. It's locked in. Zion Johnson's been taken there. But I think it's a good pick. I think it's a very safe pick as well. And with that being said, Pro Football Focus has the Buccaneers needing a guard, center, and defensive interior. The next guy that I go defensive interior is Travis Jones out of Connecticut, which I just don't love, out of UConn. So I could easily see the Buccaneers trading back here and maybe getting one of the Chiefs picks, and then the Chiefs moving up and taking some wide receiver we haven't taken yet, they like a little bit better, or just really maybe sticking with the pick here. And then I'm going to go ahead and just take Kenyon Green, guard at A&M. Listen, like, I'm not the expert on when it comes to guards, centers, really. And I wish I knew more about the position overall. But when we're at 27th pick in the draft and we're an hour and 20 minutes into recording the podcast, I'm taking Kenyon Green, not looking back and thinking he's probably a good fit.
I don't
for
blame
the Bucs. Got to keep Brady upright.
Well, and the other thing too is Ali Marpet, their Pro Bowl, many-time Pro Bowl guard, is no longer on the team. I think he retired, didn't he? Ali Marpet, am I wrong?
No, I think you're right.
So he's gone. I think that's a great pick there, especially with the guy that they probably wanted going right before. I think this would play out really similarly to how it did just now. I think this is a really easy scenario to see. So with the 28th pick in the draft, the Green Bay Packers, who are back with their second pick. Green Bay Packers select linebacker Devin Lloyd from Utah.
There you go.
Feel really good about getting some of these defensive players back to back because we could use them both. And I feel like the Packers got incredible value on both these guys. Jermaine Johnson falling to 22 and Devin Lloyd falling to 28. They have Devondre Campbell is their main inside linebacker right now, but they do play a 3-4 quite a bit. He'll definitely see the field. He could be, I mean, in my opinion, I think he's the best linebacker in this draft. And the Packers will definitely they will take advantage of him on a rookie contract for sure. I think he's going to plug and play right away. He's not going to need a lot of time to get up to speed. And seeing him in like a linebacker core with Preston Smith and Devondre Campbell, like I think that's a really good combo. Obviously, the Packers, everyone's going to be clamoring for a wide receiver, but it's just so deep. Like the Devin Lloyd falling this far is too good to pass up when there's definitely room for him in that defense. And I think there's plenty of wide receivers coming up in the second round. I think the Packers will get somebody. I just think they pick too late to get one of the really good guys. So I think they'd rather take value where they can find it.
Are you worried about the Aaron Rodgers immediate backlash on Pat McAfee's show for not taking a wide receiver in the first round?
No, because I'll be excited to watch it. I love Pat McAfee. I think he's great. But I think, yeah, I mean, I don't think Aaron Rodgers would actually make a giant public stink about it. I assume that he's got to be in some kind of communication with them about what he wants them to do with the pick. I mean, I don't think he would have come back to the Packers if he wasn't going to have any say whatsoever in what they did. So I don't know, but this is what I would do in this scenario. I came into this fully expecting to take a wide receiver with one of these two picks. But just with the way it fell to me, I mean, those are arguably two of the best defensive players in the draft. And those falling so far just made it too good to pass up.
All right. Well, Jake, with the first of the two Chiefs selections, who are you taking?
So with this pick, ironically, I am going to go George Pickens. The reason being is he's a dude that hasn't played much in college. It seems like, every time I hear Georgia fans talk, which I heard a lot, they would say, well, when we get George Pickens back, when we get George Pickens back, when we get George Pickens back. It was always that. He played 4 games this year, 4, and had 5 catches in 4 games. And those 4 games were Georgia Tech, the SEC championship, the semifinal, and the national championship. Those were the 4 games he played in, and he had 5 catches. Coming off an ACL tear. He played 12 games his freshman year, and then he played 8 his sophomore year, and then 4 his junior year. 24 games. I mean, you playing what is that? Probably about 66% of the games possible. At least.
Yeah, not ideal.
Not ideal. And it going down, your reception's going down every single year because you're just not playing. It's not an argument as to why he would fall that long or that far, because I do think talent-wise he probably is up there. But the injury concerns are there. They always have been there. But all that being said, if you are the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill, George Pickens, he's not going to replace him, but he helps soften whatever that blow is, and there will be one from losing Tyreek Hill. It is a guy that you can put out there. He can play automatically. He's quick. He runs good routes. He has good hands. All of the things that you want in the next level receiver, George Pickens has it. He has some off the field stuff, but If there's a solid place that you could go to, it is Kansas City. And, Pro Football Focus, I think, summed it up. I didn't even read this, I swear. It says he was a potential wide receiver 1 after a massive freshman year, but never built upon it. And
There you go.
if you're getting drafted off your freshman year, you must be pretty freaking good.
Done deal. Lock it in.
Locked in for sure. All right. Well, Jake, great pick. Great pick, I gotta say. I have the Chiefs' second pick here in a row. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Kyrie Elam. Of course, we learned earlier on the NFL Network how to not pronounce his name, or maybe how to pronounce it. Who knows? But I'm going to just go ahead and take the Florida cornerback. It's a position the Chiefs need. And you took the flashy wide receiver pick, so I'm taking the stereotypical, let's take a defensive guy who's got some good skill and move on, not look back.
I believe he is the nephew of former Florida safety Matt Elam, if you guys remember him. He is the one that made Mario Williams from Oklahoma in the national championship game. That is a
Wait, Matt Elam,
Matt Elam that used to play for the.
Is Matt Elam the kicker, or is that somebody else?
Matt Elam played safety at Florida and then played for the Ravens.
Was it Jason Elam? It was Jason. Jason Elam is the kicker.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just remember him from Madden.
Yeah.
We're almost to the end here, boys.
Yeah. Here we go. All right.
I'm looking back on the. It feels like a very long time ago that we were picking Aiden Hutchinson and Evan Neal and Kyle Hamilton. Those guys are members of NFL teams now. This is exciting.
All right. Which lineman are you drafting, Patrick?
No, I'm actually I am not. God, I want to. The thing is, I'm looking at my board, and I'm looking at the Bengals depth chart. And the thing is, they could conceivably take another wide receiver. Like they have a ton of weapons. They have Jamar Chase, obviously, and they have T. Higgins, who are their top 2 guys. Tyler Boyd is serviceable, but you could see them dumping him, especially with how much they're paying him. Did you know Tyler Boyd? Bless you. Tyler Boyd is making over $10 million a year.
Wow.
And he'll make more next year. I don't know. I don't love that. Let's see. I'm gonna do it. Give me all right with the 31st pick. The Cincinnati Bengals select Jahan Dotson, wide receiver from Penn State. This is a guilty pleasure pick because I do love this kid. The obvious need for the Bengals is secondary, because they don't want Eli Apple. Although he's on a 1-year deal. They'll keep him if they have to, although I don't think they will. But frankly, I don't love the corners. If Kyer Elam was still here, I would definitely take him. But again, Calvin just sniped them from me. So I think the next guy that I would take in the secondary would probably be Brisker, but the Bengals have great safeties, Jesse Bates and what's his face, Von Bell. You gotta love both those guys. So I'm gonna go with a wide receiver. I really think. Plus, they lost Uzama. That's a target that's gone. They'll have to replace. I really don't think they're keeping Tyler Boyd. I think they're gonna trade Tyler Boyd somewhere. And this would be a great option for them. So it's a little bit of a selfish pick. It's a little bit of a doubling down on the Jamar Chase decision, last year. But I love Jahan Dotson. I think he's got a ton of speed, and I like them sticking with offense kind of as their calling card.
Seems like a good pick to me. The only thing I'd say is that they have their wide receiver, and they have Boyd.
They do.
And so they have 2 pretty darn good wide receivers. But as we know, You never have enough good wide receivers. I would rather them spend the pick on the offensive line, but I think they've tried to kind of manage that this offseason.
Mhm.
So
Who did they
good
get?
pick overall.
Didn't they get
Leo
somebody?
Collins.
Lyle Collins. That's who they got. Okay.
Yeah.
Which will definitely help a little bit, right?
It should help. It should help them out a lot. Although the Cowboys, didn't keep him, so I don't know. I'm always like in the air on that. Whenever the team that like could keep him didn't, it's like all right, like so then the Cowboys need a guy to replace him, and they didn't want to pay him. But interesting spot overall. Jake, you have the last pick of the 2022 NFL mock draft here.
It
with the
is
Detroit Lions.
The Detroit Lions. I don't know. I mean, this one's tough because I do think there are a lot of good players on the board. I think Detroit, you could arguably put everybody that they need all positions. But if this is how, I think we're all on the conclusion that we think this is maybe not how the draft should shape out, but similar positionally to a lot of these teams, less quarterbacks than people think, all of that kind of stuff, because it's like if you are Detroit, like, are any of these guys going to come in and be better than Jared Goff? I think that's what you have to ask yourself. And the answer, in my opinion, is no.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think Jared Goff is gonna win some games for the Lions. I do. I think that they're shoring up enough, and I like their coach Dan Campbell. Like it's hard to tell really whether he can win a lot of ball games for them, but I do think there's something there. I think they're a team that plays with a lot of heart, and I think I don't necessarily agree with them taking on Goff's contract, but like I mean they got a lot back for Stafford, not just Goff, and this being one of those picks, obviously. So, yeah, curious to see what you do here.
Yeah. So, just looking at some numbers, the Lions actually had one of the best rush defenses in the National Football League. They're kind of a conundrum statistically because, they weren't great. Like, obviously everybody knows like their issue is offense, but if you look on paper, their offense really isn't terrible. Like personnel wise, it seems like they've just got a few kinks that they need to work out. And, most people would probably say Jared Goff is the ultimate problem, but I wouldn't say that any of these guys would make any of the quarterbacks available would make it look better than what Jared Goff currently is doing for the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
And their offensive line, correct me if I'm wrong, is actually pretty solid for it being the Detroit Lions. So
because they have, because they drafted Sewell last year, and they have Taylor Decker on the other side,
and Ragnow as well,
and Ragnow at center. So yeah, get him a couple of guards, and they could be onto something.
And the weird thing is they're not, like, personnel wise, they don't look great defensively, but they were solid in the passing game. So I don't know. They're just a kind of a weird team. But
definitely a weird team. Yeah, no doubt about that. Who's the pick, Jake? The pick is in. The time is running.
The time is running.
Are you trying to decide?
I really like I'm mulling because I think I know who I want to take. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take Lewis Sine out of the University of Georgia. So yes, I am going to take 2 safeties in the first round. Kyle Hamilton is more of that free safety type, and Lewis Sine is more of that fly around the field kind of guy. So, they would be really, really good. And, Pro Football Focus has him, he only missed 11 tackles on 159 attempts as a safety at Georgia. Really good tackler, really good in pursuit. So if you had Kyle Hamilton kind of down there in your free safety position, having Lewis Sign in your strong safety position would definitely help shore up that defense until you could wait on that perfect quarterback that you could get in Detroit. Because I don't think that team is far away from being decent.
I think it could be. I think they could easily be better than the Bears next year.
Yeah.
And be third in the division. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but that's much speaking more towards Justin Fields getting better in the second year in the NFL and having an offensive tackle that the Bears drafted last year in the second round, actually playing more games than just 2 or 3. And Jake, you and I, of course, know the offensive tackle, Tevin Jenkins, Oklahoma State guy. And he was just injured. He was just injured a lot last year, so Justin Fields didn't have a lot of time to throw. And also, the Bears, I think, could be a little bit better with the new whole scheme in there and Fields having more time to get adjusted, et cetera, et cetera.
If you're the Lions, you're just waiting for Rodgers to retire at this point. Like that's where that division kind of becomes a free-for-all. And I think shoring up that defense would be the best move.
Oh, for sure. I mean, get 10-year starter type of guys. I think it'd be interesting if the Lions did, because that's what you have them taking. You took them with 2 safeties in the first round. But if you're saying both are going to start, one's going to be strong, one's going to be free safety, I think that's the way, of course, it would have to work. What I've noticed here from the first round, do you guys know one conference that no player was drafted from?
What's that?
Big 12.
Big 12.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, we got 3 Big 12 grads, of course, Texas, and then Jake and I, Oklahoma State, and not one Big 12 guy taken.
I'm scrolling down the board here. Like who would be the first Big 12 guy off the board? Probably Breece Hall. Could be Breece Hall, the running back out of Iowa State. He could definitely go early second round or even late first round. Definitely in that mix. I mean, you got future Big 12 with Sauce Gardner and Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. But that doesn't count.
Petrie would probably be the one that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
And Nick Bonito is also
Petrie,
really good.
The safety out of Baylor. Is who we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that would be. I think he could be the first guy, or Breece Hall, or Nick Bonito. Just depends on what teams have guys graded as. Of course, that's one of the fascinating parts about the NFL draft is just you have different grades on different guys. So seeing how those guys rank out in the day, it's always a fun thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing to see. All right. Well, Jake, give me like your 1 minute kind of final comments here as we wrap this up.
I really hope the draft goes like this on Thursday. I just think it's different, when you're drafting almost unbiasedly, because again, we don't have millions of dollars riding on this, but like, I'm also not sitting here listening to the fluff that we get told on NFL Live every day, right? Like, I'm not sitting here. Calvin, you always bring up the Jimmy Clausen agent thing, because there is truth to that. That does happen, and I don't think this is the year, as we've seen. Was there any time that? I mean, I know I drafted the one quarterback, but was there any time where anyone felt just extremely inclined to take one?
Not necessarily. I thought about it with the Saints.
Yeah,
I think the Saints were the closest call for me. Because they were. I mean, it's still them picking at 16. Like that's still earlier than I would probably want to take most of these quarterbacks. But it definitely crossed my mind. I would have taken Willis. So if Willis was off the board, would you have still taken Pickett would you have taken Pickett instead for the Steelers?
No.
just done a different position.
Yeah, I would have taken a different position. If I were Pittsburgh, what pick was that? 20?
20.
If I were Pittsburgh, probably you took Trevor Penning.
Can confirm.
I probably would have taken Devontae Wyatt. If
Whom we
Malik
love.
Willis were
Yeah.
If Malik Willis were not there.
There you go.
Because the Steelers had one of the only worst defenses rushing than the Chargers. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it's fair.
No.
It's fair. It's fair. The only time that I was really kind of thinking about taking a quarterback was with one of the two Eagles picks, but I still think that that's the only, I mean, for the teams that I'm selecting for, that was the only real team that I was like, yeah, maybe. The Buccaneers clearly aren't doing anything. The Chiefs clearly aren't doing anything. I can go back in order and go all the way down. I just, the one team is pretty much like, okay, when I had the third overall pick with the Texans, that was an opportunity, but definitely not a spot. I mean, just the value's not there. And then, like I said, with the Panthers, I think it's a spot, but again, the value's just not there. If the Panthers go ahead and take Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, or whoever at 6, I could see Matt Rule getting fired midseason. And that's not. I don't think that's a hot take. I just think that's one of those where if that's the guy that you're betting the franchise on with that early of a pick, I think Dave Gettleman, the owner for the Panthers, could be like, all right, listen, look, if this doesn't work out, you're gone, basically.
I don't mean to bring up a whole new
not Dave Gettleman, excuse me, not Dave Gettleman.
I don't mean to bring up a whole new bag of worms, but if you're the Panthers, you have got to like draw a line in the sand with McCaffrey, where he gets hurt every year and it's for half the season. Like it's getting to the point where it's like, what are we doing? If you're the Panthers, like, because you win games when he's playing, you lose when he doesn't. So you've got to adjust somehow, and they don't.
But I'm not sure he makes a huge difference.
Not with Sam Darnold, no.
But I'm not. Then with Malik Willis, then with Kenny Pickett, then with CJ Stroud, or
I guess my point is he helps, but if you're going to pay him that much money for him not to play, because it does feel like every year we all play fantasy.
1,000%. Yeah.
He gets drafted high and hurt for 6 games.
Well, but we saw it with Saquon Barkley, and we saw it with McCaffrey, who the Dave Gettleman thing, that's where it comes back to, right? Like he did both of those picks.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a whole new can of worms, just because I think it's been well talked about that it's just not the thing to do. You just don't take a running back top 10, top 15, top 20. We have our whole entire mock draft, and we have basically a run on tackles, a run on corners, a run on some wide receivers, and that's the draft. Some safeties and some defensive interior guys.
Yeah, we took
that's
7 wide receivers.
Yeah,
so that's pretty significant. There's a lot of good safeties in this draft.
Yeah,
we took 3 of them, but I think there could be more. Like there could be more of those guys. You could have a Jaquan Brisker. You could have, who's the other guy? I think I mislabeled somebody in my spreadsheet. But these are like you can slot in a lot of these guys. We had a little mini run on the offensive guards, with Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green. I just think like it's kind of the big uglies in this draft that are a spotlight, with all the offensive tackles early. Edge rushers are obviously a strength too, and then you kind of have one guy who spikes up with the other positions. The top center, clearly, Tyler Linderbaum. You've got the top safety, clearly Kyle Hamilton. So it's like I think guys are gonna set themselves apart. I'm excited for Thursday. I think it's gonna be awesome. Yeah, wide receivers and edge rushers. I mean, what more can you say?
Yeah, and I think the point that Patrick, you and I haven't known each other for more than a year, but Calvin and I have talked about this ad nauseum, where it's just like, don't force feed quarterbacks. If he's not better than the guy on your roster, don't take it. If he's not better today than the guy on your roster, you probably shouldn't do it, because there will always be next year and you'll probably still be just as bad.
Probably.
And it's like, are you going to draft a quarterback to still be bad? No, but you'd rather build that. I don't want to get on like a whole football cliche thing, but you'd rather build the foundation first and then do the quarterback thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely two schools of thought. I mean, the Jets are doing it the opposite way. Like they drafted their quarterback and had nobody around him, except a couple pieces maybe on defense. And time will tell. I mean, if this year if the Jets don't show any improvement this year, if the Jets pick in the top 3, top 4 next year again, then Zach Wilson will be a failure, in my opinion. I don't think you can give him any more time than that, because they've. It's not like they've done crazy things, to put stuff around him. But then on the other hand, you have the Bengals, who have kind of quietly been drafting extremely well and just building up, like you say, this foundation, this core of the team. And then 2 years ago, you insert Joe Burrow into it, or arguably last year, his first full season, you insert Joe Burrow into it, and look what happens. So that's where that's where
they
I
already
agree
had
with
a
you.
defense, right? Like the Bengals already had the defense.
I mean, the defense started playing really well about the same time Joe Burrow showed up. And
Probably
arguably,
not a coincidence, right?
yeah, and probably most notably just in the second half of their Super Bowl season. So,
Yeah, and they
what
also
are you going to do?
hired a good coach, which helps.
Yep. Which was not clear at first. People were not sure about Zach Taylor until now. So,
I gotta say, I'm still one of those guys where Zach Taylor walks down the street, I'm not sure I'd recognize him. He's a dude.
he is absolutely
He's a dude. He's not necessarily a guy. He's a
no,
dude,
he's a guy.
I
mean, he's just a guy being a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dudes
If you
being
saw him
guys.
on the street, if you were just driving and you saw him walking down the street, you'd say, that's a guy being a dude. It's the same with Dan Campbell, except Dan Campbell will have a speech ready to go, explaining the difference between a guy and a dude.
I feel like Dan Campbell, no matter what, is a guy. I'd recognize Dan Campbell. I'm not sure. Zach Taylor could walk down the street wearing a hat. Never would recognize him. Same thing, of course, for Dan Campbell. But main difference here is that Zach Taylor will keep walking down the street. He might see me wearing a Bengals shirt, give me a thumbs up, keep walking. If I'm wearing a Lions shirt, I think Dan Campbell's ready to give me the, hey, wait. Let's get a photo. Hang on a second. What am I, whatever, right? Like,
maybe
he's proactively selling his program. Zach Taylor's like,
put his head down.
I don't have to sell it on the street. I can sell it on the field. Dan Campbell's selling it on,
There you go.
And maybe that's just I know that's just way too in the weeds. So trying to be funny. So I think we can go ahead and end it out here. If you haven't already, please follow the CGA Tour on Twitter and Instagram for more. There is a current graphic going up as we speak in a reply tweet to this podcast of the entire, mock draft
First
simulator that we just did. So if you want to go ahead and check it out there, please do.
And just imagine at home, if we had continued into the second round, think about how many quarterbacks are going to get taken in that second round of this potential draft.
Well, so
it could be a really exciting day too, for sure.
So I did have some fun. I have 3 questions for you guys. Okay. Turn this out.
Yeah.
Second round quarterbacks, over or under 3.
You mean given
3?
This first round?
So no. I'm saying the draft on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
The over under is set at 3 for the amount of quarterbacks taken in the second round on the NFL. Well, excuse me, on Friday, I guess. But that's where it's at, right? The over under set at 3. Jake, are you going over or under? I'm saying personally under just because I think it'll be 2. But I don't know.
I'm gonna go.
Maybe I should have set the
I
number at
weirdly
3.5. We'll see.
I mean, I weirdly think 3 is just about right. I think
I'm
you
gonna
probably have
push
Desmond Ritter, Matt Corral, and Sam
Sam
Howell,
Howell. That
but
was my 3 as well.
it's definitely not going to be under 3. So I'd say if anything, you take the over. If you take it, you take the over because you
So
could have a fourth guy slide in there somewhere, at the end of the second round or something. But I think 3 is probably about right.
all right, then for Thursday, over under is set at over under
is this an actual over under or
no,
you're
I'm just
pulling
making
these
this up.
numbers? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had these 3 questions going in, but I'm changing the number here. But over under set at 1.5 for amount of Big 12 players drafted on Thursday in the first round. 1.5. We're going over or under?
Under.
I mean, I think it has to be under. I don't think
we just did our whole one and we didn't even have 1 taken. And I'm saying we might have 2.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, because I'm looking at it like who would get in there, and you're right. I think Jalen Petrie. How do you say it? Petrie?
I think it's Petrie,
Yeah.
like a
Okay.
Petri dish.
Yeah. All right. So Jalen Petrie, he's a possibility, but still, I mean, I think most people would still have him as a second round guy. And then after that, I don't know. I really don't know who you have. I didn't want to bring up, a little bit of a self own here, but Texas may not have a single player drafted. We'll have to see. It'll either be Cameron Dicker the kicker, or it'll be Thompson, the cornerback. And neither of those guys are going anywhere close to the first half of the draft, let alone the first round. So
I think Brees Hall is probably the best bet to get taken in the first round.
I agree, and I don't see. I just don't see it being 2. It certainly is not going to be more than 2.
No.
All right. Then the last, I'm going under as well. The last one I have here, I'm looking back at our simulator results just to kind of remind myself. The last one I have is that what would shock you more? A quarterback taken in the top 10 or Aiden Hutchinson not going number 1 overall?
If there's no quarterback, you said if there's
what would shock you more? A quarterback going in the top 10 of the draft or Aiden Hutchinson not being drafted number 1?
Oh, then Aiden Hutchinson not being number 1. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is still, it's not a foregone conclusion. But I think it's a near certainty that somebody is going to take a quarterback in the top 10. To me, it should be the Seahawks. To me, the Seahawks need a quarterback as bad as anybody. But you hear a lot of things about the Panthers. So I'm not up on all the team rumors and the team news. Like, apparently there's a bunch of reports that the Panthers are completely smitten with Kenny Pickett. But I don't know anything about that. You can just read the rumors and believe what you want to believe. But I kind of do think there will be a quarterback in the top 10. So yeah, I'll take the Hutchinson.
I would be more surprised if there was not a quarterback taken in the top 10.
Same here, just because I think the Jaguars could do anything with that first pick. And besides quarterback, of course, or running back or wide receiver. But they could take another defensive guy and I'd be like, okay, all right, whatever.
In my non-expert opinion, I don't think Aiden Hutchinson is worthy of a number 1 pick.
In a different year, yeah, that might be true.
Yeah, and that could just be because for the value, it's weird the way we look at it, but for the value, you would argue that you're getting better value for a later pick. Anywhere after 1, you are probably getting a better value for any guy that you draft. But Hutchinson getting mocked to 1, I think in any other year, he's probably not. And, nobody would take Kyle Hamilton with 1, as far as we know. But I think in other years, he probably would be a number 2 pick. Even he might be I know I picked him, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think in other years, he could have been a number 2 pick. it's hard for me just to like pump the media machine into my head and say, yes, I'm taking Aiden Hutchinson if I am the Jaguars.
Well, again, I mean, there's two schools of thought, because you either think that way and you say, well, I'm not gonna take Aiden Hutchinson just because everyone says he's the best. But
right,
I also think like sometimes you just take the obvious guy.
Yeah, and you just don't look back.
The Jaguars are super, super capable of screwing up having a first overall pick. And so I don't think they will. I don't think they'll take a guy with any risk. I think they just stick with the commodity.
Sounds good to me. Well, with all that being said here, thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. Please follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter and Instagram for more. Thank you guys so much for joining, Jake and Patrick.
Thank you guys
for the 2-hour NFL mock draft special.
Always good to be here. Could probably talk for another 2 hours about the draft if invited. So,
well, maybe Thursday night we'll have a round one recap. TBD. TBD. We'll see. Maybe Friday we do it or something too.
This podcast will still be shorter than the real draft.
Correct.
True. Oh, yeah. All right. That being said, thanks so much, guys, and we'll catch you again soon. Peace.